gentlemen, we made it. We made it to another Friday. Hey everyone, how's it going? You're listening to the Scoreboard. 844 Studio 4 is the phone number. If you have something you want to chat about, I'm here. Talking about the world of sports for the next, let's call it 53 minutes, somewhere around there. Something like that. And boy, the NFL season is back. What a start to the season. Last minute touchdown gets overturned. Kansas City Chiefs off to a good start in trying to defend their back-to-back Super Bowl titles. But that's not the only thing going on in the world of sports. I know we have a lot of high school football going on in our area. We are going to talk high school football today. Statesville High School, we talked about them a lot this week after that upset win against Lake Norman, which was earlier this week, actually. That game didn't happen on a Friday. It started on a Friday, and then the rains came in. If you remember 1 week ago, the weather was not as pleasant as it is today. So a lot of those games ended up getting finished early this week. Statesville and Lake Norman was one of them. Statesville off to a 2-0 start on the season. Their next game is actually going to be on the road. They have yet to play a home game so far. They're going to be visiting South Iredell High School. That game will start at 7 o'clock. There's more games as well. We will go over them today. Also in the world of sports is the NASCAR Cup Series heading to Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's going to be a mess. Now, I'm not dreading this at all, because I do think it's going to be a good race at Atlanta, but it is going to be crazy as the first race of the playoffs, round one, race one, takes place at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Now, if you remember all the way back to early February, you got to go way back. I know, I understand it's September, but back in February, we raced at Atlanta, and I think on lap 3, there was a big accident. Some drivers got taken out of that one, and man, if that happens again this coming Sunday, there might be a lot of playoff drivers and playoff implications in those accidents, which is why the Atlanta race this coming Sunday is going to be such a nail-biter. Guys like Kyle Larson, guys like Chase Elliott, Denny Hamlin, Tyler Reddick, who won the regular season championship, they aren't safe in this round because of this super speedway. If they wreck out early and don't get any stage points and finish far in the back, that advantage they have to the cut line is going to disappear, and it is going to disappear fast. The Carolina Panthers' first game of the season is coming up this Sunday on the road against, well, it'll be a division opponent, the New Orleans Saints. Yesterday, if you remember back to that show, we did our season preview for the Carolina Panthers. And, well, I personally think that they're going to go 6-11, and I think they're going to start the year off with a loss. I'd love to see that proven wrong, but I've yet to see anything that would instill confidence in the Panthers for me. But long season, game number 1 coming up on Sunday. There is an NFL game tonight. Friday night football. Yes, I know Friday night is a high school sports scene, which we are about to go over a lot of high school games here in just a minute. Not only that, we now have NFL football on Fridays, and it's always like this to an extent, maybe not as much as we saw last week with college football, but there are a few college games tonight as well. You actually have 3 on the slate, including Duke on the road taking on Northwestern and SMU. A lot of people high on SMU this year. Seems like that NIL stuff is really going to benefit SMU because, you know, the money thing and back in the 80s and all that, the SMU money scandal. So there's a lot of football tonight. If you want to watch the NFL game, you have to have Peacock. It is a streaming service. Don't forget that. You're scrolling through the channels tonight and you're saying, where in the world is this football game? You're not going to find it. You have to go online, or you have to go to your streaming provider. You have to go to Peacock, download it on your TV, or go to the website. But you're not going to be able to watch this one without a streaming service or other ways, which I can't talk about because it's not legal. Don't do that. Just get Peacock. We already talked about one of the high school football games that's coming up this afternoon. I guess this evening, 7 o'clock is pretty late. The sun's starting to go down around that time now. Statesville High School taking on South Iredell. That's a 7 o'clock kickoff at South Iredell. Also tonight, you have Lake Norman High School looking to get back on track after dropping that game to Statesville. They are at home taking on Asheville. That game will also be at 7 o'clock. One team that we're going to start keeping an eye on closely is the Morrisville Blue Devils. Morrisville High School has a game tonight against West Rowan. That'll be a home game for Morrisville. Now, if you remember back to the conversation I had with Langston Wirtz Jr. on Wednesday, he talked a lot about Mooresville in this area being a team that might be able to push through the playoffs in the 4A bracket. The 4A West is still going to be the hardest division of the playoffs to go through. Not 3A, not 2A, not 1A, but that 4A specifically on the west side of the state, which is where we're at, it is going to be the hardest playoff path. But Mooresville should have a good team this year. They did lose to Reagan by a score, but apparently that was a really close one, with Langston Wirtz explaining how Mooresville just barely missed tying that game late, possibly kicking an extra point for the win. So we'll keep an eye on Mooresville High School as they take on West Rowan later on tonight. Another team that we are going to keep an eye on is Huff High School. Huff High School football team does have a game coming up. They currently are number 6 in the state of North Carolina. They lost their season opener by 1 to Northwestern, and then they beat Myers Park in week 2. Now they're going on the road for their first road game. They'll be taking on Carolina Forest High School out of Myrtle Beach. It's going to be a little bit of a trip there for Huff High School. So that is an interesting game there. Keep an eye on them as they have some high recruits there who may be playing on Friday or on Saturdays, I should say. Possibly on Sundays. We'll keep you updated with all of the local high school sports. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about high school. Then we're going to get into the NASCAR Cup Series, start previewing the race at Atlanta. Race 1 of round 1 in the 2024 playoffs. It's going to get crazy. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We got some drivers to hear from. We'll be back right after this.
More of Sports Director Joe Berg's The Scoreboard is coming up on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, a mostly cloudy but mainly dry evening. Temperatures stay a little more mild with a bit more humidity and the cloud cover. We'll only dip down into the low 60s in the overnight hours for our Saturday. Cloudy to start with a sprinkle possible, but we'll have sunshine back as we go into the afternoon. Temperatures warming into the low 80s. But another cool down with crisp fall air on the way by the time we get to Sunday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
The app with Lake Norman deals. The WSIC app is out now, wherever you get your apps.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Langtree Lake Norman in Mooresville presents Alex Key in concert on Thursday, September 5th. Event time is 6:30 p.m. with the music powered by Waves Entertainment starting at 7. Don't miss the music of country singer, Nashville recording, and top 40 charting artist Alex Key this Thursday at Langtree Lake Norman. The Iredell County Fair runs every day this week at the fairgrounds in Troutman. The 88th annual event, sponsored by the Kiwanis Club, features some of the best entertainment in the area, including go-kart racing, carnival rides for all ages, competitive 4-H exhibits and animal shows, the magic of Lance Gifford, and much more. The fair runs daily through Saturday. Gates and rides open weekdays at 5 p.m. and on weekends at 3 p.m. Tickets are $5, while kids 6 and under are free. Carnival ride tickets and wristbands are available at the ticket box. Enjoy the Iredell County Fair every day this week at the fairgrounds in Troutman. The downtown Mooresville Festival of Food Trucks takes place on Saturday. The event offers over 15 trucks from around the area and features live music by John Sullivan and Ryan Winters. Bring a chair, bring your friends, stroll, shop, and enjoy gourmet fare in the social district. Food trucks will be located on Main Street and Broad Street on Saturday from 5 p.m. to 8:30. See you downtown for the Mooresville Festival of Food Trucks. On Saturday, see the top riders from the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship as they compete on a custom-built course at ZMAX Dragway. The Super Motocross Fan Fest is a pre-race event taking place from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. where you can see the teams practice, prepare, and qualify for the playoff round and is included with your event ticket. Don't miss the biggest Super Motocross race of the year. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com or the CMS app for information and details. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
Home of the best talk.
WSIC. Local starts here.
It's the Scoreboard with your host, Sports Director Joe Berg on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
And we're here, second half of the program today. 844 Studio 4. It's 844-788-3464 if you got something on your mind that you want to talk about. And I'm here for the next, you know how long I'm going to be here, right? It's going to be something like 42 minutes, somewhere around there. Hang out with me. Let's chat. Anything on your mind in the world of sports, 844 Studio 4 is the phone number. That's 844-788-3464. Talking about the high school sports scene. Mooresville High School taking on West Rowan later on. My alma mater, we've talked about them before. They have not had the best results. They're not a bad team. Pine Lake Prep is who I'm talking about, by the way. That's where I went to high school. Their football team had an off week on the first week of official games. But then they had game number 1 last week, off to a tough start, 0-1. Tonight they take on the Roanoke Rapids. That's going to be another road game. Their first home game isn't going to be until next week, taking on Lake Norman Charter. Now, if you remember back to last year, we were almost fascinated with Lake Norman Charter. Didn't have the kind of run that they wanted, but they did have a winning record. And they beat Pine Lake last year, so maybe a chance for Pine Lake to avenge that loss and get in the win column here in a couple of weeks. But tonight, they're on the road against the Roanoke Rapids. Out of Roanoke Rapids, NC, by the way, in case you didn't know. There's a big difference between these 2A schools and these 4A schools. Pine Lake ranked 260th in the state, whereas those 4A schools we were talking about, some of them in the top 15, top 50. Statesville was in the top 50, I believe. And they're a 3A school as well, by the way. But still having a very good year. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on these games as we head through the night tomorrow. You'll have a lot of results to be looking at. Obviously, I won't be here. It'll be a Saturday. But on Monday, come Monday, we can talk about all the results from the high school football scene over the weekend and possibly talk to someone important. No, not Langston Wirtz Jr. again. No, we're looking to get more into the weeds here of the high school sports scene. So maybe we'll hear from a coach, a player. Maybe. I'm working on it. I'm trying my best, ladies and gentlemen. Let's move on from the high school sports scene. Obviously, a lot going on tonight in that world, but we still have a few days until we get to Atlanta for the NASCAR Cup Series. Now, the race is going to be on Sunday at 3 o'clock. Tune into USA Network if you want to watch that race. Saturday, tomorrow, we will have cars on track for the first time. Now, I saw some complaints on social media about there not being any practice. Understandable. Now, if you're a fan of NASCAR and you're going to spend a weekend and go out to a race and maybe you want to tailgate, don't you want to see cars on track? There's campers at Atlanta. They've probably been there since Wednesday. Don't you want to see cars on track practicing? Now, I understand it's Atlanta. It's a super speedway, but still, like, the fan involvement here has gotten less and less, I feel like. It's almost turning into a made-for-TV event. Really, it is. I mean, just look at how often cars are on track. The only time we're going to have cars on track this weekend at Atlanta is qualifying and the race. That's it. No practice. And there's only 2 series in action this week, the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the NASCAR Cup Series. I don't have a big problem with it because, well, it is Atlanta, and as much as I'm sure teams would like to practice a little, get their car kind of tuned up for Atlanta, what I don't want to see happen is people go practice at Atlanta and there's a big one during practice. You don't want that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a minute. We do have a caller into the studio. Let's go ahead and get that. Oh, no. I didn't get it in time. Well, caller, if you're still listening, give me a call back, 844-STUDIO-4. That's 844-788-3464. So Saturday at 11 a.m., qualifying for Xfinity will be going on. At 12:30, it'll be the qualifying for the Cup Series, and then at 3 o'clock, the NASCAR Xfinity Series makes their way onto the track for their race. And then, like I said, Sunday at 3 o'clock, we will have the NASCAR Cup Series. Maybe we got a caller into the studio this time. Let's go ahead and see. Bring him on the air. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the scoreboard.
Hey, did you lose your transmitter?
Did I lose my transmitter?
Yeah, I got no signal at all from it now on the FM.
Oh, well, thank you for bringing that to my attention. I am unaware of that. I will let some people know. See if we can get that rectified.
All right. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you for letting us know. Yeah, I know the station has been getting worked on every now and then here recently. But yeah, I am unaware of anything, so I will reach out to who needs to be reached out to, and we'll see if we can get back on air. Hopefully, you're able to hear me. It'd be really upsetting if you weren't able to hear me, but maybe they're listening now and we can get that rectified. Who knows? But I'm going to keep going, and hopefully we can get back on air here. I'm not sure what the issue would be. It looks like everything's set on my end. Yeah, we'll keep going. We'll just keep chatting away about the NASCAR Cup Series. I want to bring in some comments from a couple of drivers here, starting with Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott had a pretty interesting season. You know, he had a good average finish throughout the year, but he didn't really lead all that much. He got a win, yeah, but it was a really weird season for Chase Elliott. Let's hear from him on how he is planning on attacking Atlanta this weekend.
I'm happy that it's at Atlanta for personal reasons. You know, just have enjoyed going down there, enjoy racing there, enjoy the staff. You know, all those folks have been really good to me throughout my career. So I'm happy that they have 2 races. I think they deserve 2 races. I think it's a fitting place to have 2 events if you're going to have 2 events. Don't love having another speedway in our playoffs, just from the standpoint of the unknown of things that can happen at those places. But they make the schedule, and we, are tasked with showing up, and I don't want to make the schedule. So we're happy to go, and we'll try to make the very most of it.
I don't know about you guys, but I would love to see a driver-made schedule. Give them the tracks, give them the requirements, say we got to go here twice, we got to go here twice, and we got to go to all these tracks at least once. I'd love to see what the drivers come up with. Just kind of talking about what Chase Elliott said, where he doesn't want to make the schedule. I wonder what they would come up with if the drivers had to make a schedule. We'll never know, because that's not going to happen. By the way, the playoffs next year, they don't start at a super speedway, I don't believe. The schedule is out, and it looks like Darlington is going to be the first race of the playoffs next year, but there is still going to be a super speedway in there, that being Talladega, in the round of 8. They're going to go to Talladega on October 19th next year. That's a late race. It goes... The final 2 rounds go Las Vegas, Talladega, Martinsville, and Phoenix next year. That is going to be a crazy round of 8 if I've ever seen one, with Talladega being a wild card in there. But this year, we have 2 in the playoffs, that being Atlanta to start things off, and then we will have Talladega next round of the playoffs. So not all that long before we go back to super speedway racing, or I guess you want to call it drafting racing, whatever we've decided to name Atlanta. It's not a super speedway, in my opinion, because it's not over 2 miles, but it's also not just like a typical 1.5 miles anymore. It's a lot different now. It drafts. It drives like a Daytona and Talladega. And, we saw the result of that in February when we had a 3-wide photo finish. But Chase Elliott there. See from Kyle Larson also talking about how Atlanta is going to be the playoff opener. Now, Kyle Larson has never really been able to find success at super speedways. We've seen him leading super speedways before, but he's never able to get it done. I can remember back when he was in the 42 car, he led the Daytona 500 coming to the white flag and ran out of gas in 1 and 2. Maybe the playoffs will be different from him. Here's what his thoughts are on Atlanta being the playoff opener.
For, I guess, teams like ours, probably not one that we were excited to see on the schedule. I think the good thing for the teams who performed well throughout the regular season, you hopefully have some bonus points along the way, a little bit of a buffer to the bubble. So, that's anything can happen type of track. But we were really strong. We've been really strong there. We just, I don't think I've finished a race yet at Atlanta since they've repaved it. So have just been caught up in different wrecks every time. So hopefully next weekend's a little different. We can be up front and you'll get stage points and at least see the checker flag.
Not only have you not finished at Atlanta there, but you really haven't had very good results on the super speedways, Kyle. Maybe it changes, maybe not. We'll see. Atlanta has turned into one of the wildest cards that we have in NASCAR. We got to go to our next commercial break. When we return, we'll wrap up the NASCAR talk and then get to some more things that you need to have on your mind this weekend, including some top 10 football matchups in the NCAA. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this.
Keep it right here. We'll have more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg in just a moment from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, a mostly cloudy but mainly dry evening. Temperatures stay a little more mild with a bit more humidity and the cloud cover. We'll only dip down into the low 60s in the overnight hours for our Saturday. Cloudy to start with a sprinkle possible, but we'll have sunshine back as we go into the afternoon. Temperatures warming into the low 80s. But another cool down with crisp fall air on the way by the time we get to Sunday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
We're at Black Automotive. The Buick Encore GX is now at a low 0.9% for 36 months or a $3,000 rebate. Or the Buick Envista is also 0.9% for 36 months. And there's more here at Black Automotive Statesville.
Bob McIntosh here with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Serving this community has been a collective passion of our law firm since 1997. We offer the quality legal services and results you would expect from a large downtown firm, but with a personal, community-focused approach right here at home. The McIntosh Law Firm, your local legal resource.
To learn more about the McIntosh Law Firm, visit McIntoshlawFirm.com.
I'm Bryce Johnson with this Unpacking It Sports and Faith Minute. No matter what sport it is, if athletes are struggling, they will search for their comfort zone on the court or field. If an athlete can find a place of comfort, it significantly increases their ability to thrive. As followers of Jesus, we all experience times of struggle. But when that happens, where do we turn to find our comfort zone? Do we look for activities to numb the pain and pursue temporary pleasures to comfort or distract us? Or do we turn to God as the ultimate merciful comforter? The Bible says, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our affliction." Today, as we experience difficulties, let's remember we have a comfort zone in God, and His mercies are readily available for us right now. I'm Bryce Johnson, and you can unpack that. For more, go to unpackingit.com.
Attention, fellow conservative investors. What does the name Reagan mean to you? It stands for being the ultimate conservative. It also stands for the Reagan Gold Group. Do you see storm clouds approaching? The stock market hates uncertainty, and there are plenty of reasons to be concerned. High inflation, unstable debt, and economic uncertainty are just a few. You have car insurance, homeowners insurance, and life insurance. But do you have insurance for your retirement savings and your 401k? We urge all fellow conservative investors to learn about the one asset that could help ensure your nest egg doesn't crack under economic pressure. GOLD, gold. Call the one name any conservative investor needs to know about. Reagan Gold Group.
800-296-1557. 800-296-1557. 800-296-1557. That's 800-296.
Rev up your dreams with a bike from Tilly Harley-Davidson. Whether you're new to Harley or a seasoned pro, Tilly has the bike for you. Come experience the freedom of the ride. Feel the thrill of the road and the thunder that only a Harley can provide. Stop by Tilly Harley-Davidson of Statesville or go to TillyHD.com.
Have you taken the Desco Challenge? The people have spoken. Desco is where the professional goes for electrical supplies.
Hi, my name is Randy. I'm a general contractor, and I always trust the products at Desco.
See for yourself at DescoInc.com.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Stocks had their worst weekly sell-off since March of last year. The Dow lost 410 points, 1%. The S&P lost 95, 1.7%. The NASDAQ, though, was down 437, or 2.5%. There are more signs the labor market is cooling. Today's August jobs report says 142,000 jobs were added to the workforce last month. That's fewer than expected. Intel is exploring a sale of its stake in Mobileye that provides software and hardware for self-driving systems. The chipmaker currently holds 88% of the company and may offload some shares on the public market or sell to a third party. LL Flooring Holdings says it signed an agreement with F9 Investments for a going concern sale of the business. The deal comes on the same day LL Flooring had announced all its remaining stores would be shuttered. Now we're learning F9 Investments will acquire 219 stores, inventory in the stores, intellectual property, and other assets. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
The Scoreboard with Joe Berg continues now on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
We are back, hopefully on the air. Should be on the air, as far as I know. 844 Studio 4. That is the phone number if you have something on your mind that you'd like to talk about. I'm here for the next 25 minutes. You got time. Carolina Panthers season starting on Sunday. Game number 1. against the Saints. I know I probably upset a lot of the listeners by saying the Panthers are going to lose their first 2 games. But after speaking with Mamie and Justin with Good Morning LKN, and I told them my prediction was 6 wins for the Panthers, they were like, wow, that's a breath of fresh air. So maybe I'm hitting the nail on the head here. Maybe we all have the same expectations for the Panthers, and I didn't upset everyone. Hopefully. 844-STUDIO-4 is the phone number if you want to chat about anything we're talking about today. We've been talking about the NASCAR Cup Series heading to Atlanta for race number 1 of the playoffs. Excuse me, I had to clear my throat there. Let's give you a quick playoff update. Not an update. I'm going to give you the order of the playoff standings right now and how they shake down in points. Starting with your point leader right now. Now, remember, it doesn't matter who's leading the points right now. It really doesn't. You can lead the points from here to Phoenix if you want. And if you finish second at Phoenix and one of the final 4 wins the race, you don't win the championship. I know, it doesn't make sense, but that's what we have. So anyway, the points are as follows. Kyle Larson, 35 points to the good. Christopher Bell is plus 27. Tyler Reddick, plus 23. William Byron, plus 17. Ryan Blaney, plus 13. Denny Hamlin, plus 10. Chase Elliott, plus 9. And then it gets real tight down at that cut line. Starting with 8th, Brad Keselowski, only 3 points above the line. Joey Logano and Austin Cindric, 2 points. Daniel Suarez, 1 point. And Alex Bowman is in right now, tied with Chase Briscoe and Harrison Burton in points. That's your 12th, 13th, and 14th drivers. And then Ty Gibbs and Martin Truex Jr. are both 1 point below the cut line. It's going to be a crazy 3 races. It's going to be a crazy 3 races. And then the next 3 are not going to be any more tame. This round, you have Atlanta, Watkins Glen, and Bristol. 3 completely different tracks. Next round is Kansas, Talladega, and the Charlotte Roval. They're really going to pound that Roval into our heads until we accept it for what it is. And what it is not a lot of fun. In my opinion, I can't grasp it. I just can't get excited about the Roval. We've seen plenty of races there now. And yeah, one thing to keep in mind when we do get to the Roval, the track is changed. They reconfigured it a little bit. That section where you come out of the infield and back onto the banking has been redone to allow for more passing opportunities. But still, we'll see. Maybe we'll get lucky and it'll rain. And we'll see some rain tires on. That will be a lot of fun. Well, race number 1 for the round of 16, the Quaker State 400 from Atlanta. Sunday, September 8th, 3 o'clock. I did give my champion at the beginning of the year. My champion did not even make the playoffs. I had Kyle Busch winning it all this year. I thought he was going to build on those wins from last year with RCR and really be a difference maker this year. But he had a really bad first, 23 races or so? 20 races maybe? But over the past 4 races, Kyle Busch scored the most points out of any driver in the series. It was just a lot of too little, too late, including a couple of back-to-back runner-up finishes, man. That's tough. Almost got it done at Talladega to punch himself to the playoffs, and then almost got it done at Darlington. I feel like if they would have ran 1 or 2 more laps before that big pile up into 1, Kyle Busch would have been able to use the tire advantage that he had over Briscoe to chase him down and pass him. He was able to chase him down. He just couldn't get close enough to him to pass him. We're going to move on from the NASCAR Cup Series. I've given you your preview. Hopefully, you know what you're expecting this weekend. Saturday is going to be a good race, but also Saturday, You have college football to watch. Yes, a lot of top-tier teams are going to be facing off here in the second week of the regular season. Starting with the big noon kickoff here, number 3 Texas taking on number 10 Michigan. That's a great game to start your college football Saturday. A few others to keep in mind. By the way, before we do this, let's give you a quick playoff ranking, or not playoff ranking, but NCAA rankings, the football rankings. You know what I'm talking about. The AP top 25. No change for the top 2 teams. That's Georgia, Ohio State, still 1-2. New second place team, or third place team, though, is Texas. Alabama 4th, Notre Dame 5th, Ole Miss at 6. Oregon drops 4 spots. Here's what I don't understand. Oregon won, and they dropped 4 spots in the rankings. Like, okay, yeah, they beat Idaho, and it was only 24-14, but still, they won. Well, you got to drop them to 7. But I guess it doesn't matter because, 7 is still going to be safe, in my opinion, for the playoffs. 8, Penn State. 9, Missouri. 10, Michigan. Utah at 11, Miami. The U at 11. At 12. USC, University Southern California, 13th. That is USC. Tennessee 14th, Oklahoma 15th, Oklahoma State 16th, Kansas State 17, LSU up to 18th down to 18th, I should say, after they lost their season opener. Kansas 19, Arizona 20, Iowa 21, Louisville 22, Georgia Tech 23, NC State 24, and Clemson 25. That is your top 25. Drop from the rankings. Obviously, Florida State, they were 10th in the rankings, and they lost back-to-back games. They lost to Georgia Tech, and then they lost to Boston College. That's not great. It's not great, that's for sure. So some of the games that you're going to want to keep an eye on this weekend, like we said, Michigan taking on Texas. In our rankings, you have number 5 Notre Dame playing Northern Illinois. Utah taking on Baylor. We got a rivalry of Iowa taking on Iowa State. That game will be at Iowa. Kentucky, South Carolina this coming weekend, Saturday, 3:30. That's going to be a good one, by the way. South Carolina, Kentucky. You're going to want to tune in for that one. North Carolina will be hosting the Charlotte 49ers. Little local game there. Number 12, Miami takes on A&M. And we got plenty of football. There are more games than I can go through in an hour in the college football scene this week. But the biggest one and the one game that has ranked teams playing each other, that is Texas and Michigan, noon on Saturday. We got to head to our next commercial break, our last commercial break on this Friday. If you want to be a part of the program, 844-STUDIO-4 is the phone number. We'll come back, talk some Major League Baseball, and get you set for the weekend. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this.
Keep it right here. We'll have more of the Scoreboard with Joe Berg in just a moment from 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, a mostly cloudy but mainly dry evening. Temperatures stay a little more mild with a bit more humidity and the cloud cover. We'll only dip down into the low 60s in the overnight hours for our Saturday. Cloudy to start with a sprinkle possible, but we'll have sunshine back as we go into the afternoon. Temperatures warming into the low 80s, but another cool down with crisp fall air on the way by the time we get to Sunday. That's your forecast from the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Langtree Lake Norman in Mooresville presents Alex Key in concert on Thursday, September 5th. Event time is 6:30 p.m. with the music powered by Waves Entertainment starting at 7. Don't miss the music of country singer, Nashville recording, and top 40 charting artist Alex Key this Thursday at Langtree Lake Norman. The Iredell County Fair runs every day this week at the fairgrounds in Troutman. The 88th annual event, sponsored by the Kiwanis Club, features some of the best entertainment in the area, including go-kart racing, carnival rides for all ages, competitive 4-H exhibits and animal shows, the magic of Lance Gifford, and much more. The fair runs daily through Saturday. Gates and rides open weekdays at 5 p.m. and on weekends at 3 p.m. Tickets are $5, while kids 6 and under are free. Carnival ride tickets and wristbands are available at the ticket box. Enjoy the Iredell County Fair every day this week at the fairgrounds in Troutman. The downtown Mooresville Festival of Food Trucks takes place on Saturday. The event offers over 15 trucks from around the area and features live music by John Sullivan and Ryan Winters. Bring a chair, bring your friends, stroll, shop, and enjoy gourmet fare in the social district. Food trucks will be located on Main Street and Broad Street on Saturday from 5 p.m. to 8:30. See you downtown for the Mooresville Festival of Food Trucks. On Saturday, see the top riders from the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Championship as they compete on a custom-built course at ZMAX Dragway. The Super Motocross Fan Fest is a pre-race event taking place from 8 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. where you can see the teams practice, prepare, and qualify for the playoff round and is included with your event ticket. Don't miss the biggest Super Motocross race of the year. Visit charlottemotorspeedway.com or the CMS app for information and details. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Are you curious about the new development down the street? Wondering what's going on in your community? I'm Bill Russell, host of Town Talk. Join me each Wednesday afternoon, 4 to 5 p.m. here on WSIC as we chat with elected leaders, town staff, business owners, developers, and nonprofit leaders who are shaping our community. Town Talk, each Wednesday at 4 on WSIC.
Talk sports with Joe Berg. Call 844-STUDIO-4. It's the Scoreboard on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
And we're back. Final segment here on the Scoreboard. Quick correction. There are 2 games involving top 25 schools in college football this weekend. The first one that we talked about, that's the obvious one. Texas and Michigan, 3 taking on a 10. But I failed to mention number 14, Tennessee, is going to be on the road in the Duke Mayo's Classic, taking on number 24, NC State. That game is going to be at Bank of America Stadium, 7:30 on Saturday, just so you know. So if you're in the area and you're wondering why there's so much traffic around Bank of America Stadium tomorrow night, well, it's because there's college football going on in the stadium. That'll be Tennessee and NC State in the Duke's Mayo Classic. One thing I do want to mention before we move on from college football is one of the schools that was getting votes for rankings, but not quite in the rankings, was App State. App State takes on Clemson down in South Carolina at Memorial Stadium. If App State is able to pull off a win here, I don't see why they wouldn't get a lot more love in the rankings come next week. You could see App State in the rankings. And you got to remember, if App State wins games and they get ranked high enough and they win the Sun Belt and they win the conference championship, they could find themselves in the playoffs. Like, it is very possible for a Sun Belt team, for a Conference USA team, for anyone, really, literally anybody, to get into the rankings, be one of the 5 highest ranked conference champions, and find themselves in the playoffs. It's totally possible. Nobody is out. That's the one thing that I like about this new system, is we're not excluding anybody. So we'll have some fun throughout the college football season trying to figure out a projection of who's going to win these conference championships, because you got to remember, it's the 5 highest ranked conference champions And then it is the next 7 teams in the rankings. So that could be school 1, 2, 5, 6, 9 in the rankings, or it could be 1, 2, 3, and 4 are the conference champions. And then you have like number 17 as your next conference champion. And then it'd be 5 through 12, I believe, if my math is correct on that, who would go into the playoffs. And then we'll be arguing, who are they going to make the 12 seed? Who are they going to make the 13 seed? It's not going to stop, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to continue talking about rankings in college football for a long time to come. And we're continuing to have rivalry games as well. See what I mean? The Duke Mayo's Classic's still going on. So don't worry too much about the change in college football that you've been seeing. Now, one thing that you won't get used to right away is the Big Ten having Oregon. It's just like, what? Oregon in the Big Ten? Really? All this shuffling that's been going on in the world of college football realignment. It might take you all year. It might take into next year before you really say, okay, now I know who these conferences have. And then by then we're going to change again and it'll be a mess. I'm telling you, be ready for more change in college football. Just be ready. Let's talk about some things that are going on in baseball. Earlier today, the New York Yankees were in action. We are still on our Aaron Judge home run tracker here. It's been a bit cold recently. Batting average has dipped slightly, and no balls have been flying out of the ballpark. He's been stuck on 51 since late last week. Shohei Ohtani is in action later on tonight against the Guardians. He sits at 44 home runs and 46 stolen bases, tracking that 50-50 season. No player in the history of Major League Baseball has hit 50 home runs and stolen 50 bases in the same season. We have a chance for some real feats this year. I mean, if Aaron Judge gets hot, and we know he can. We know he can have a week where he hits 5 and get himself right up against that 62 number that he's looking at. We could see a couple of records being shattered this year, but I'm trending towards Shohei Ohtani being the one to make history here with a 50-50 season. I just can't see, in the amount of days left in the season and the amount of games that are left for the Yankees, I can't see. We're at about 20 games to go, and he needs to hit 11 home runs to tie 62. It's going to be tough. It's going to be an uphill battle. Let's go ahead and update you on the division standings and the wild cards in Major League Baseball, starting with those Orioles and Yankees who are still tied. That race isn't going to go anywhere. It's going to go down to the final day of the regular season. In the AL Central, the Guardians are up to a 4-game lead over the Twins, 4.5 over the Royals. That one got down to, I believe, 2 games by the Royals. They were right there, and now the Guardians starting to win some ball games again. Houston still holding a 4.5-game lead over Seattle, but they're on a 3-game losing streak. They actually lost 1-0 the other day. That is not the Houston Astros that we know. And they were playing the Reds, by the way. So it was a tough loss for those Astros. Meanwhile, the Mariners are on a nice little 2-game winning streak here, dropping that division lead to 4.5 games. In the National League, it doesn't look like anybody's going to catch the Phillies in the NL East. The gap is 8 games. And like I said, we only have about 20 or so games left in the regular season. It's 8 games to the Braves and 8 games to the Mets. Now, why is that important? We'll talk about it when we get into the wild card. The NL Central, nobody's catching the Brewers. They're going to run away with that one. And in the NL West, it seems like the Dodgers have figured everything out. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will be back on the mound next week for the Dodgers, it seems. So that's a big get for the Dodgers. We talked about him being one of the big acquisitions this offseason. He got injured early in the season. We haven't seen him, but now he's going to be back and healthy for the playoffs. In the wild card races, right now, the NL is the only one that really has a race going on. And we actually have a tie. The New York Mets are on a 7-game winning streak. They are getting hot at the right time. September, they're playing some of their best baseball of the season. They are now tied with the Braves for the final wild card spot. This is going to be something to keep an eye on as we get towards the end of the year. The Braves made a few moves to try to bolster that lineup without having Ronald Acuna Jr. on the team, and so did the Mets. One of those two teams, looks like, is not going to make the playoffs. Now, you still have the Padres and the Diamondbacks, but they are 3 games above the Mets there, so there's still a little bit of a gap for that team, but still something that you need to keep an eye on this because it's going to be crazy going to the end of the year. 4.5 games back to the Cubs, and in the American League, it's 5 games back to the Detroit Tigers. Speaking of the Detroit Tigers, they hit a top of the 9th down last night or 2 nights ago. The Tigers were down 3-0 to the Padres on the road, top of the 9th, bases loaded, 2 outs, full count. Yeah, you know what happens. You know what happens after that. Parker Meadows hit a grand slam with their backs against the wall. Man, the Tigers, don't let them get hot now. They are the next team in the wild card. They're going to be trying to chase down the Twins and the Royals. Although I don't think they're going to do it, it'd be nice to see a good fight put up by them. As we head to the end of the program today, let's talk about a couple of things that happened on this day in sports history. Do you remember this one, the U.S. Men's Open for tennis? Novak Djokovic is disqualified in the 4th round after hitting a ball in frustration and striking a line judge. He was disqualified for that and thrown out. That was on this day, 2020. Also on this day in Olympic history, Baltimore Orioles' Eddie Murray hit his 500th career home run, joining a pretty rarefied air there. Cal Ripken Jr. broke. I'm going to try to speak English for you guys. Cal Ripken Jr. broke Lou Gehrig's record of consecutive games played, playing in his 2,131st game. And some things that happened on this day in sports history. I appreciate everybody hanging out with me today. Watch a lot of football. Panthers' first game of the year against the Saints. They're going to be on the road. We'll cover that on Monday, talk about what happened, how the rest of the season's going to be looking. High school football tonight, college football tomorrow, NFL, NASCAR Cup Series on Sunday. It's going to be one hell of a weekend. Have a great one, everyone. I'll talk to you Monday. Until then, see ya.